I'm going for speed and looks. Hopefully I got enough horsepower, a sleek car design, that I'm gonna just get out from underneath them as quick as I can. Worst case scenario, if I gotta weld the door shut, might as well have T-tops, ejecto-cedo.
Big Chief's world was not all glory and fast cars. It was crashes, crime, and chaos. The man who ruled the streets on Street Outlaws wasn't just a legend behind the wheel. He was also running from the law. From a hit and run at just 18 to racing arrests, speeding tickets, and even a $1 million tax scandal, his past is as wild as the races he won. Tune in, because the biggest shock of all is still coming. Fast cars, fast cash, and $1 million mistake. Big Chief, the name every street racing fan knows, the face that made Street Outlaws what it is today. But what if everything you thought you knew was only part of the picture? Justin Shearer, the man behind the legend, has a past that is not all high-octane thrills and television fame. A truth buried beneath the roar of the engines, waiting for the moment it can no longer be ignored. Born in the rolling hills of Louisville, Kentucky, way back in 1980, Big Chief was hooked on speed from an early age. By the time he moved to Oklahoma in 1992, at the age of 9, he was already obsessed with the underground street racing scene. He would ride his bike out to old Route 66 just to watch the action, his young mind dreaming of the day he would be the one behind the wheel. That dream came true, but not without some serious twists and turns along the way.
You can see it. Parts are starting to break. Cars aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Everybody is so amped up. Nobody is working as hard as the 405 to go down roads right now.
Before Street Outlaws made him a household name, Justin had already made a name for himself in other ways. His first big mistake came at just 18. Fresh into adulthood, he found himself caught up in a hit and run back in February of 1998. Instead of waiting for the police, he bolted from the scene. In Oklahoma, that is a big mistake. The law says you stay put after an accident, but Chief was not sticking around for that. When the dust settled, he was staring at the possibility of 2 years in prison. Lucky for him, he managed to dodge serious time this time. Fast forward a few years, and in 2001, he found himself behind bars in Oklahoma once again. The charges? Well, nobody knows exactly, but they were serious enough to put him away for a while. Then just 5 years later, he was at it again, caught tearing through Flagstaff, Arizona, at over 85 miles per hour. Was he racing, testing out a new ride? Just pushing his luck? Whatever it was, the police were not having it. Another ticket, another brush with the law. Now, this was just the beginning. While Big Chief was stacking up traffic violations, the Discovery Channel came knocking. Suddenly, all that illegal street racing was being filmed for millions to see. But let us be real. Was it really illegal? Not exactly. It turns out the whole thing was set up. The roads were closed, the police knew about it, and the so-called run-ins with the authorities? Staged. It was all for the cameras, all to make the audience think they were getting the real deal. But here's the thing. Off camera, Big Chief was not done getting into trouble. In 2018, he got slapped with yet another speeding ticket, this time in Springfield, Missouri.
Satisfaction in the confines of his garage at Midwest Street Cars. This isn't simply a work area. It's a safe haven where he, alongside his better...
By 2021, the trouble was still coming. Pulled over in Canadian Oklahoma for an expired license plate. It was a small infraction, sure, but at this point, his record was looking anything but small. And then came the big one, driving on a suspended license. Now, this was not the first time Chief had his license taken away. He had even talked about it on the show, joking about how he was driving around with no tags, no bill of sale, and no valid license. But getting caught? That was new. This time, he was facing up to a year in jail. You would think that would be enough, right? But no. If there is one thing Big Chief loves more than speed, it is avoiding the Internal Revenue Service. In 2021, the federal government came knocking, and they were not asking for a favor. It turns out Chief had skipped out on his taxes from 2013 to 2018, right when Street Outlaws was blowing up. The bill? A staggering $1,250,000. And when the Internal Revenue Service comes for you, they do not just ask nicely. They take what they are owed. Cars, houses, bank accounts. Nothing is off limits. If he does not pay up by 2029, he might just lose it all. And just when you thought Big Chief's past was wild enough, there's another story waiting to be told. A name not as well known, but a legacy that refuses to be forgotten. Built to win, lost too soon. Have you ever noticed how some folks only get famous after they are gone? That is the deal with musicians like Johann Sebastian Bach and Vincent van Gogh, writers like Emily Dickinson and Herman Melville, even Bruce Lee in the movie world. But here is one for the car racing crowd, Tyler Flip Priddy. Not exactly a household name unless you were deep into street racing. But this dude left his mark. Flip was part of the Oklahoma racing scene, rolling with the boys who would later become reality television stars. He had the attitude, the skills, and a car that looked like a disaster, but somehow tore up the streets. But here's the twist. By the time Street Outlaws hit television screens, Flip was already gone, and his death? Still a mystery. Let us break it down. Back in the year 2013, Discovery Channel launched Street Outlaws, giving viewers an inside look at illegal street racing and the characters who made it all happen.
It's a brief look into their common passion for the specialty of tuning, with a specific spotlight on the enamoring universe of Caddy Jack.
The show has got drama, crazy car modifications, and some of the biggest personalities in the scene. Guys like Big Chief, whose real name is Justin Shearer, and Kamikaze, whose real name is Chris Day, made names for themselves, but their friend Flip, he should have been a bigger deal. Flip was right there at the start, part of the original crew of Oklahoma street racers. He had a beast of a car, a beat-up 1980s Chevrolet El Camino known as the Elko, or its more colorful name, the Old Slut. This thing was put together with whatever Flip could scavenge, borrow, or straight up steal, allegedly. It looked rough, but it was fast. The dude had personality too. Always had a beer in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and never backed down from talking smack. That is the kind of guy who makes great television. But Flip never got to enjoy that fame because right before the show aired, he was gone. Tyler Gene Priddy was born on November 30th, 1981, in Chickasha, Oklahoma. It is kind of fitting that he came from a place with such deep racing roots. His love for cars started young, thanks to his dad, who was also into drag racing. He grew up with Big Chief and Kamikaze, and those three were all about cars from the beginning. Riding bikes together to watch races, learning everything they could, and eventually getting them to the scene themselves. Flip took the usual path, went through school, got a job, and lived a normal life for a while. He worked as a storekeeper before landing a gig at Warren Caterpillar, where he stuck around for 10 years. But racing was always the dream. Caterpillar even sponsored some of his races, which was pretty sweet. He did not just talk about racing, he lived it. Every spare dollar went into making his El Camino as fast and as sketchy as possible.
Now, your mom is the name of a car, not a driver. For him to name his car your mom, that thing better be stupid fast.
People joked it was held together with duct tape, and honestly, they were not wrong. But guess what? That car won, and it made Flip a name in the underground racing world. This is where things get murky. Flip died on May 28, 2013, at just 31 years old. But nobody really knows what happened. The official details? He died at home in Yukon, Oklahoma. But how? That is where it gets messy. Some say it was a gunshot wound. His wife Morgan later hinted that he struggled with depression, but nothing has been confirmed. Other rumors floated around. Maybe there was an accident, maybe alcohol was involved, maybe something else entirely. His family and the show's producers have kept it quiet, which is their right. But that silence just made people speculate even more. Even though Flip never got to see Street Outlaws explode in popularity, his memory is still part of the show. His best friend Big Chief made sure of that. In the El Camino, it did not disappear. Big Chief held on to the car for a while before passing it to Kamikaze. That was fitting because Kamikaze and Flip had been childhood friends. He took care of the Elko, gave it some upgrades, and raced it for years. But in February 2021, the car met its end in a brutal crash. Kamikaze lost control, and when the dust settled, the Elko was just a burned-out frame.
Normally, we'd never roll up on a car like this because it's a race car. It's fiberglass, huge tires, big motor, but we're down for the challenge.
After that, Kamikaze sold off some of its parts. Wheels, a tire, even a piece of the brake rotor. Fans snatched them up fast with bids reaching over $110,000. There was even talk that if it hit $225,000, Kamikaze would serve the winner a steak dinner in his racing suit. No clue if that actually happened, but if it did, that is a meal to remember. To keep Flip's memory alive, Kamikaze built a new car, a Chevrolet Corvette C5, using parts from the Elko. It was not the same, but it was a way to carry on his friend's legacy. And if rumors are true, another Elko might be in the works. Flip left behind more than just a legendary car. He had a family too. His widow, Morgan Amber Priddy, still honors him, even getting a winged skull tattoo in his memory. They had 4 kids together, each with nicknames as unique as their dad's car. Tovey Jean, Remy J, Dresden Rin, and Bennett William. And every year on May 28th, fans take a moment to remember Flip. His name still comes up on Street Outlaws, with Big Chief and Kamikaze keeping his legacy alive. Even though he was not around to enjoy the spotlight, Flip is still part of racing history. He lived life fast, he built a monster of a car, and he made sure nobody ever forgot his name. That is about as legendary as it gets. Some racers build their reputations on speed alone, while others carve their place with something more, a mix of skill, personality, and a knack for doing things differently. This is where AZN steps in, from street hustler to TV star. Oklahoma City, a place where roads stretch forever, and the smell of burning rubber never really fades. Here, in this kingdom of fast cars and big dreams, a kid named Jeff Bonnet was cooking up something special. People probably know him better as AZN, the guy always hanging around Farmtruck on Street Outlaws. Some say he is just a sidekick, but there is way more to his story than just standing next to a man in a beat-up truck. Born in the early 1980s, Jeff was surrounded by the noise of revving engines and late-night street races. His father, Dennis, was the kind of man who knew his way around a wrench, and he made sure Jeff grew up the same way. The two of them worked on a rusty old 1964 Chevrolet Nova, a car that Jeff got on loan from his father when he was just a broke high school kid. No job, no cash, but a burning need to make that car his. He got creative, started painting house numbers on curbs to make a few dollars, just to pay his father back. But no one becomes a racing legend just because they painted a few sidewalks. Jeff had a love for speed, and he wanted more than just tinkering under the hood. That is when he met the man who would change his life, Sean Whitley, better known as Farmtruck. The man was already a beast on the Oklahoma racing scene, and Jeff was just some kid trying to prove himself. Something clicked between them, and soon enough, they were inseparable. Jeff was not out here buying the fastest, most expensive muscle car like some of the other racers. He had a different idea. He got himself a 1970 Volkswagen Beetle, a bug. Not exactly the kind of car people expect to see tearing up a drag strip, but Jeff was not about playing by the rules. He turned that tiny, rusty, ridiculous car into something that could keep up with the big boys.
All could have crashed. That's the one thing I wish I didn't. I let people down.
People called it the Dung Beetle, and it became as much a part of his identity as his trash talk. Jeff was not chasing trophies. While other racers were all about proving who was the fastest, he and Farmtruck were more interested in just having fun. They built weird, unpredictable cars that could still hold their own. While that made them fan favorites, it also meant that they were not exactly seen as serious competitors. The people behind Street Outlaws eventually noticed them, and in the year 2013, Jeff and Farmtruck got their shot at television fame. They were not the ones winning every race, but they were definitely the ones making people laugh. Jeff had a way of hyping things up, talking trash, and keeping the energy going. People loved it, but in the world of drag racing, being entertaining does not always keep someone on the track. Jeff's racing style was not built for straight-up competition. The Dung Beetle was fast, but it was not taking home victories anytime soon. For the producers of the show, that was a problem. After all, people tune in to see racers go head-to-head, not just for the laughs. Over time, Jeff and Farmtruck started getting left out of races. Some say it was because they were not serious enough about winning. Others think the producers just wanted to focus on the people fighting for the top spot. Either way, Jeff and Farmtruck had to figure out their next move. Instead of fading into the background, they flipped the script. If they could not race like the others, they would do something completely different. That is when they got their own spinoff, Street Outlaws, Farmtruck and AZN.
I just got a call from Steve over at Wet Pets. He says the aquarium is done. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think this thing is going to be amazing.
This show was not about climbing the rankings or taking home prize money. It was about having fun, building insane cars, and doing things their way. Whether it was taking a hearse and turning it into a speed demon or making something completely ridiculous just for the laughs, they were all in. Despite their best efforts, the show did not really blow up the way they had hoped. Maybe the audience was not as into the wild bills as they were into the hardcore racing. Maybe the network did not push it hard enough. Either way, it did not last, and eventually Jeff and Farmtruck found their way back to the Main Street Outlaws show. Even with the setbacks, Jeff's impact on the scene was undeniable. He was not the fastest, but he brought something different to the table. He made racing fun. He gave fans a reason to laugh in a sport that is usually all about tension and rivalry. That is what kept people coming back. Not everything was just about cars and racing. Jeff had his fair share of personal struggles too. His mother passed away when he was just a teenager, and his father died a few years later, leaving him and his sister to figure things out on their own. Maybe that is why he gravitated toward Farmtruck. He needed someone to help him keep pushing forward. When he was not on the track, people started wondering about his personal life.
But that loss right there means the world to me because I didn't give a Dave was in the other lane. I raced the road, and the car is so goddamn fast down low. I was out on Dave.
There were rumors about a long-term relationship with someone named Lisa Lacey, but Jeff never really put much out there about it. He kept that part of his life private, maybe to keep the focus on the cars and the fun rather than the drama. Jeff was never just some sidekick. He was a man who took an unconventional path and made it work. He did not chase the same dreams as the other racers. He made his own lane, even if it was not always the easiest road. As Jeff carved his own lane in life, it leaves us with one final question. Did his love for racing stem from passion or the need to escape? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories like this.